So in today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 things that you have to know before you move into the Dunwoody area, and take it from someone who has lived in Dunwoody for a good amount of his life. I grew up here. I have friends here. I have people who still live here. My parents still live here, and I've known this area for so long. I have all the little opinions that I could have about this area, good and bad. I'm going to bring you guys everything today, so stick around till the end so you can be an expert on the Dunwoody area if you're looking to move into here. So guys, without further ado, let's get into the video. So for number 1, we're going to get into Dunwoody itself and a more objective analysis of Dunwoody. The parts of Dunwoody, there's about 3 different parts, really 2 parts, but I want you guys to know one key difference in the area. So one part of Dunwoody is the perimeter area. It's more of an urbanized core. You're going to have places like the buses, you're going to have MARTA stations, you're going to have apartments and townhouses and businesses, big old buildings there, and everything of the sort, restaurants as well. And it's just more of an urbanized core of Dunwoody. But then you also have the suburban half of Dunwoody, and the suburban half is actually made up of 2 parts and of itself. So one part is actually Sandy Springs. This is where Sandy Springs kind of comes over to this side of 400, and it actually changes a lot of things because not only is it a different city, but Sandy Springs is also inside of Fulton County, which the rest of Dunwoody is not. Dunwoody is actually settled in DeKalb County. So this not only affects your taxes, but it also affects your schools. So I want you guys to know that, because I want you guys to actually be able to look and see what house you're buying, what school zone it is in, what taxes you're going to be paying, and a lot of things matter for that. And it kind of, the way it intersects and comes through Dunwoody is very weird, so you kind of have to be on your toes when you're looking at that. But other than that, the market's great. It's very robust. We've seen about a 7.5% appreciation over the course of a year, and the average home is about $650,000 when you take everything into account. But also the fact that if you're looking on the suburban side of Dunwoody, it's probably going to be around, I'd say around $800,000 for a lot of properties. You're looking at nicer ones, certainly could be a little bit over $1 million. And if you're looking at really nice ones, it's not surprising at all to see anything over $2 million. So for number 2, obviously we're talking about $2 million houses here. We're going to have a little bit higher scale of a cost of living here in Dunwoody. So it's actually not too bad. If you're talking about groceries, if you're talking about some things like gas in some places, it is not too bad. Even some of the restaurants are a lot cheaper here in Dunwoody compared to other places across the Atlanta area. So groceries are nice because you have a Kroger, you have a Walmart as well. Walmart's big here. So I like to see something like that there, because if you have a family, even if you live in a nice place, you have 3 or 4 kids, you probably don't want to pay that much for a lot of things. And if you can make a weekly trip to Walmart that's just down there in the perimeter area of Dunwoody, it makes the world, it makes a lot of things way easier to be able to afford and budget in when that's the case. Also, Kroger is pretty cheap, and if you like the nicer side of life, you have Publix and you have a fresh market as well. So you kind of have everything inside of Dunwoody. But the thing that I noticed that's a little bit more expensive are the services. Like if you go and get your jacket tailored, or you get it dry washed, or if you have to go to the dentist or something, or a CPA, services like that are a lot more expensive in Dunwoody. I've noticed that you're paying a premium if you're doing any of that inside of this area, just from growing up and realizing what my brother and sister paid when we lived somewhere else, and what I've had to pay for certain things inside the area. So definitely services are a premium here in Dunwoody. But other than that, other than the housing being a lot more expensive, that's pretty much it. Most of the things you can get by with in a relatively cheap manner. So number 3, and this is interesting. So we have schools and education, and education actually changes. Again, if you're in the Sandy Springs area, you're going to be going to places like North Springs, Sandy Springs Middle, and Dunwoody Elementary. It's funny that they literally call it Dunwoody Elementary when it's in Sandy Springs, but you're going to be going to that school system. And if you're in the Dunwoody side, you're probably going to be going to Dunwoody High School, and they're pretty good school systems. I wouldn't say they're bad, and I've known lots of people to go to them. They're great kids. Nobody's really a maniac that has gone to these schools, but they're not the best and most prestigious schools that you're going to see on the North Atlanta side. If you're looking at somewhere like Johns Creek or Alpharetta High School or even Milton, you're probably going to see better schools scored across the board. If you're thinking about sports, They're not really powerhouses in sports and at all. I think in North Springs, when my buddies went there, they like had one win, and I'm pretty sure it was a forfeit. So not the best place you want to go to if you want your kid to be a star in football. You'll probably be looking at somewhere like Milton or Buford. I don't think you should send your kid to North Springs if they have any shot in hell of going to the NFL or doing anything in relation to sports. I don't know about baseball and other things. We live in Georgia. Football's huge here, but I don't ever remember those schools doing anything big unless you go to some of the private schools around here like Marist, but even then, they're not huge compared to other places. So that's certainly something to think about. Pretty okay schools, not great at sports, and that's what you can base off of that. Transportation and commutes, it's actually a great place to live. One, we have 3 MARTA stations inside of Dunwoody. We have the North Springs Station, the Sandy Springs Station, and the Dunwoody Station, all within Dunwoody itself. I think the North Springs Station's in Sandy Springs, but you have MARTA transport, which is huge. If you're ever going to the airport, it's super easy just to be able to drive down there, go to one of those stations, park your car, or have someone drive you off, or even Uber for way cheaper than it takes to Uber to the airport or park your car at the airport. I love that about Dunwoody. I think it's awesome. That's another thing that I think it's almost hard to knock Dunwoody for certain things, like versus Midtown, because you're like, well, crap, they have like MARTA stations there. They also have buses. And also, as far as commutes go, whether you're going to the city or if you work somewhere in North Atlanta, because Atlanta is so big now that Dunwoody is like in the middle of everything. It's almost a central location, because when you have places incoming that are considered the Atlanta metro area, that's way, way away from areas like Midtown. So Dunwoody's almost a central area where you can go kind of either way, and it's not too bad to go any way. Even going to Marietta or going to Norcross and Duluth and Lawrenceville aren't so bad when you live in Dunwoody compared to a lot of other places. There's a lot of highways that you can get onto. You can get on Peachtree Industrial pretty easy. You can get to 285 easily. You can get to 400 easily. And as a part of that, you can get to a lot of the other systems pretty easily. From 85 and 75 are also pretty easy to get to because Dunwoody is so close to everything, especially if you live in the perimeter area. So guys, to end off on number 5, we have the lifestyles and amenities. Obviously, it's a family-oriented place first and foremost. Even in the perimeter area, it's not a very hustle and bustle kind of place. There's not really a nightlife to be seen of in Dunwoody. Maybe there's a few bars here and there, but it's really not that big of a place. Most places are closed at 8:30, 9:30. Even the grocery stores now, they used to be open for a long time, and ever since COVID happened, and this is kind of across the board, even across the nation, after COVID happened, everything's shut down. It's very hard to get anywhere after about 9:30. I would say it's very difficult to find places are open. If you're watching a football game with the buddies and it's over and you want to get some food or something after, you gotta kind of sit on your phone for a little bit and kind of scroll through and find what you want to find on there. There's slim pickings really in the area. But as far as, besides that, your day-to-day life there is excellent. Like I said, there's a lot of convenience when it comes to transportation and commutes, which also kind of helps alleviate the fact that there's not much of a nightlife. You can go to other places and it's not a big deal. But as far as there's a ton of parks, the walkability of Dunwoody is actually pretty great. And a lot of people think walkability is just how close you are to something. And in that regard, maybe not. But as far as the walkability concerns of safety and how enjoyable a walk is, it's probably very high ranked on both of those scales. So it's a very safe area. They have bike paths. They have areas where there's big, nice wide sidewalks. There's a lot of parks. And in general, there's pretty much sidewalks all around the area. So it's a very nice place to walk around, a very nice place to go for a run, a lot of things that you can do, especially if you're an active person and like those things. But other than that, a ton of restaurants and a ton of places that you can go to and very quickly and conveniently get what you needed to get. And if like you're throwing a party or something, you're having a watch party for a football game or a baseball game or whatever you're doing, and you're doing something like that, very convenient, very easy to get everything. I'd say it's a place that really is all around, has everything, just the nightlife suffers. So if you're moving to Dunwoody, it's not the place to move to if you're looking for a nightlife. It does not serve that purpose whatsoever. If you're young and that's really what you're looking for, I don't know, Uber around to places. Maybe you want to live there because it's nice, but it's not the place to be for that. It is better to, I would say, raise a family. If you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, and you want to have a place where you're going to live your longest, And it's not really a great downsizing place either. It's just a great place to build a family and raise a family and be in an area for a significant amount of time. It is absolutely set in stone. Perfect. So guys, that is all we have for today. I wanted to give you guys just some anecdotal based stuff of someone who's actually lived in Dunwoody for a very long time and what it's like to live here and the things that I had to talk about. I didn't want to get in a lot of stats and bore you guys. I know this was a long-winded episode, but I hope I brought you guys some value and actually gave you some insight onto what it's like living in Dunwoody. But I will let you guys get back to it, and I'll catch you around on the next video.